While people are waiting, shall we play a quick game of telling one line why we are here?
Anupam, how did you just steal what's in my head? I was about to say exactly the same. Pretty much.
What did you say? Sorry, I didn't understood.
So should we play a game for the last 4 minutes while we wait? Because this Finnish silence is very heavy.
Yeah.
So
do you see how slow the time passes when people are waiting and we are under pressure? Oh my God.
Exactly. So yeah, and Anupam just stole the idea, but yeah, I was just about to suggest that since I know for sure that there's at least 4 people here who are not in Helsinki. I'm pretty sure. I didn't check the list again, but I'm pretty sure. So it would be fun to have the people who are not in Helsinki calling from and what they do, and the people who are in Helsinki telling us what they like about Helsinki, to kind of make the others want to come here.
No, don't come here, you foreigners. We like it quiet. Weather.
Hello, everyone. Maybe I can start. Do you see me? Hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Satu Husso and I'm from Turku, your favorite city in Finland. And I'm studying service design and front-end development. And now I'm in a one company duty as a trainee, and I'm a designer. Nice to meet you.
Cool.
Thank you, Satu. Nice to meet you.
Oh, we have somebody from Pakistan as well. So we are already on 2 continents.
Hi, I can go next. My name is Emmi, and I'm also from Turku, and also from the same company as Satu there. So I'm from Lyyti, and I'm the lead designer there, doing product design.
Nice to meet you. Well, I guess I could go next. Actually, I'm Alice, and I'm French, but I live in Helsinki, as a matter of fact, and I'm part of UXHel. And about Helsinki is that it's quiet because I don't like people. And it makes total sense that I'm here, right?
Alice is putting herself out of her comfort zone.
I thought that saying that you don't like people is borderline illegal for a UX designer, but I'm glad that you just, put it on the table bravely like that.
You can also...
I was
sorry.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Riikka. I'm actually I'm kind of supposed to be in London still, but I'm just about to move back to Helsinki. So I'm originally from here, and I am currently also working from Helsinki remotely to London. But I have plans to relocate more permanently back to Helsinki. In terms of what's nice about Helsinki, I wouldn't ask me because I have returned very reluctantly. So you tell me what's great about it, because I'm trying to find positive sides in the whole thing. So there you go.
Oh, the public library is nice.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Does anyone want to talk one more thing before Ali starts? It's your last chance.
Hi, is anyone can hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ni. I live in Kokkola now. I graduated last year in Sentria Ammattikorkeakoulu. Yeah, I recently got an opportunity to work in Belgium, but sadly my visa got rejected. So now I'm unemployment. That is like UX researcher internship program, and after that they offer me a job position, but they sponsor my visa, but unfortunately my visa got rejected due to Corona situation. Yes, so pretty upsetting, but I try to keep going, and I would like to try this event.
That's
Yes.
great. Well, you're welcome here, and good luck with your visa then and work.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, we're gonna get started, but if you like, you can keep writing in the who you are and where you're coming from. It would be fun to know who we are talking to. But let's get started. First, thank you everybody who's joining today. We're really excited about tonight. It feels like storytelling might be a little bit underrated topic in the world of design, and we think it's super important. So we have two exceptional speakers with us tonight. Backgrounds, and they both have a lot of experience, so we hope you will enjoy it. And yes, let's move on to the next. So for today's agenda, we're going to have first now a short introduction to UXHel, and then a talk from Karoline, Kwon, and another one from Alexis Piperides. And then Margarida is co-hosting this event with me, so also from UXHel. So throughout the talks, we will learn more about how to use storytelling to understand and share concepts and ideas. So that's going to be Karoline's part. And then we will go more in depth of telling stories using Overflow, and that's going to be with Alexis. So a couple of things to remember during the event. Please remain muted while the others are talking. And if you have comments or questions about the talks, just write it in the chat, and we're going to have a short Q&A session after each talk. And one last thing, all of tonight's attendants will receive a code for a free 3-month account in Overflow, and also a chance to participate in a raffle for 1 free annual subscription to Overflow. And that's going to be by filling the feedback form. So we count on you to stay until the end of the event. So shortly about UXHel, before we dig into the talk, this is going to be fast, I promise. We are a non-profit organization based in Helsinki in Finland, and we are now casting to the world. And because we are doing most of our activities remotely, but our objective is to support and promote and share user experience knowledge amongst our local community of UX designers and other UX enthusiasts, and also connect them to the relevant industries. So we try to help designers around Helsinki network through design events. So we are present on Meetup and Eventbrite, and discussion media like Slack and Facebook. And also for the first time ever tonight, we are actually live streaming on YouTube. Woohoo! Sorry, I'm a little bit excited about this. Then we organize events, so originally physically and now remotely. We have done events of small scale like tonight, but also bigger scale like the Design Systems Conference in 2018 and Joint Future in 2019. And we want to help our members to promote their initiatives. So if you want us to help you with something, we are all ears. And typically tonight, Overflow, Anna from Overflow reached out to us, and here we are today. So that's how it works. We work with partners to bring deals and knowledge about the design tools. So typically Figma, Sketch, InVision, and now Overflow tonight. Maybe I'm forgetting some. We are all volunteers running the activities, and so we are just a bunch of people genuinely interested in what we do, and if you're like that too, then and you would like to give us a hand, then feel free to contact me or Margareta or send us a message through Facebook. We would be happy to have more hands to help us organize these events. So what platforms do we have? We have one Slack channel and a Facebook group with more than 1,000 local members. We manage events mainly through Eventbrite and Meetup, and you can follow us there so you'll get notified when we publish new events. So I think Margareta will post some links in the chat to these platforms, so feel free to follow us there. Sorry, and start nice conversations with like-minded people. For me, and I'm only 1 minute late on my internal schedule, so yay. Let's move on with Karoline. So Karoline, I will now stop sharing and the screen is yours.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and really happy to be here and share this story with everyone here. So let's try to, I will first share the window, and then from there I will do the presentation. Okay, so are you able to see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, really excited today to talk to you about storytelling in relation to service creation. So that's kind of my angle, and I'm a service designer, so I have a UX background, but my presentation today might focus a little bit more on the conceptual part before you actually get into designing something. But I'll try to make the relationship in this talk as well. So a little bit about myself and what's my story. So my name is Karoline Kwon, and I'm Korean, but I grew up in Canada, and I now live in Finland. And I've been living like around Europe for about 10 years, outside of Finland, also in Germany and the Netherlands. So I'm kind of like this person that has been around a bit. But now I'm working as a senior designer, service designer at Posti, which is also where Alice works. And at Posti, I'm responsible for something called co-creation community. So basically, how do we work with our customers? Innovation, so new ideas, future-facing concepts, innovating around our existing services, and also this area called data and marketing. Besides these kind of core activities, I'm also doing things like future casting service concepts and creating Horizon 2 or Horizon 3, so a little bit future-facing ideas at Posti, and also really focusing on storytelling, how could we make storytelling an approach to sharing your concepts and ideas, and also design thinking and scaling that in the organization, as the team is quite new there. Besides my professional background, a little bit fun facts about myself. So I consider myself a designer, but utmost creative problem solver. So that's why I don't really like to tie myself to kind of one area. I just really love finding creative solutions to problems. And I really like games. I brew kombucha, and I'm really into miniature things. So anything that's smaller than it should be. I'm literally looking at my bookshelf, and I'm like, maybe I'll show you something after. Get into it. So my presentation is about sharing concepts through stories, and in particular, why I love it so much. So before I get into the storytelling part, I wanted to kind of give some background on what I perceive to be a story. So what is a story anyway? So if I really summarize the essence of a story is essentially a series of events strung together by a narrative, and it's kind of performed over a period of time. Of course, these stories can be linear, but they can also be a little bit like plot line at the same time. But the core essence is that there's events and it happens over a period of time. Why is this important in terms of telling stories or sharing concepts? So why we actually like to tell stories to explain things is that it takes a step back from the details and actually refocuses the audience on the experience for the customers. So storytelling has been a tool for us to bring everyone back and see the bigger picture around things and kind of get the experience on a high level before we start jumping into how could it be done? What is it that we should do? So in this talk, we're going to have 6 different examples of why we use storytelling and also why I love using storytelling, storytelling as a service designer. So first, it's to share ideas and transfer knowledge. Secondly, it really helps to get an understanding of the big picture. Storytelling also makes things more concrete, so you kind of have a point of reference to things. Makes ideas and concepts more engaging and memorable. I particularly like to use it for simplifying very complex ideas, solutions, systems, processes, you name it, at Posti. And also, storytelling is really powerful to kind of create empathy and a common understanding with you, your audience, and also the users. So before I get into these 6 different aspects, I also want to give you all an idea, like at which point do we use storytelling and where is it like most prominent at Posti, and also my work as like a service designer. So let's start with the sharing ideas and transferring the knowledge. So let's unpack a little bit how we do things at Posti and how we think about the design process. So when I look at this 4 design landscapes that we are using at Posti, we have this kind of visionary part, which is a little bit like a big picture, fuzzy. It's kind of like the direction where we want to go. It's the dream state, and it's built around different inputs. And of course, the timeline is a little bit ahead. So it might be something that you're striving for that doesn't currently exist. Level, and this breaks down that vision into kind of key themes. So if we have a vision, what are the things that we need to do to make that vision come to life? And within the strategic part, we have things like customer journeys, flows, concept stories, and then we go into the more tactical things, which is like the UI and the user experience maybe in a particular flow, in a particular touch point. And these are things that we're developing constantly to get us closer to that vision. Then we have the operational things. Look at this frame, and when we share ideas and transfer knowledge that are quite complex and in different stages, I would say that storytelling kind of focuses really much on this area. So the areas that aren't like existing yet, because stories really help bring these ideas to life and help you contextualize things and imagine things that don't yet exist. Okay. So now if I get a little bit more into details on what actually happens when you transform the concepts into stories and why we can use it, is that when you have an idea or when you work with many teams and many individuals, everyone has ideas. But when you turn ideas into concepts, storytelling is a really great way to kind of talk about your concept in context to like, where are you coming from? Where is the story taking place? Where does this concept fit into the rest of the things that we're doing? And so I use something like a mixture of concept design, storytelling, and a service blueprint to kind of help like the individuals that I work with and the other teams kind of think about like, okay, where does the concept sit? Which stage is it at in the experience? And who's like the person that we are focusing on? Are we at the moment thinking about the customer journey on a high level, what the experience looks like for our customers, or are we actually talking about our own processes? Like, how do our drivers experience things, or how do we handle things in like sorting parcels, for example? So when you're going through like figuring out what's the idea that you want to share and what is the concept that you want to share, it's really great to have this kind of framework of like, okay, taking place in the bigger picture, and then when you kind of know like the context to the idea that you have, we break it down into like different sections, and then you can kind of focus on what about the idea or the concept do you want to share. And it's easier when you have an idea that's very fuzzy and intangible, that you break it down and make sense of it. So storytelling also kind of forces you to think about like the scenes in that idea, because someone could just come to you and have like a great idea, like, we should do this, and you're like, tell me more. What do you mean by that? Who's the audience? Who's the user? How do you imagine this to work? And storytelling kind of, when you're ready to present that idea, you kind of have those elements in place. So this is kind of like, this part is the heaviest part of the presentation, so I'm sorry about that. But you go from the concept, which is like visionary, strategic, something really high level, something you can't grasp yet, something in the future. Then you try to break it down into scenes that are easy to share. And then when we transfer that knowledge, there's so many ways we do it in a visual or tactical way, something that you can actually feel and experience so that you can help the imagination. So if the story is the narrative, we also go down into tactical design to actually transfer the knowledge. We do this. So these are just a few examples. So we do a lot of different prototyping, video recordings. We also do many presentations, wireframe storyboards, etc. All right, so storytelling also helps you get the big picture, and it really focuses on why you're doing it. So if I go back to, if you remember the vision part, when I first joined Posti, like I worked with many different teams, and how kind of team structures work, I think, in like big organizations is that you're super focused on your area. You really want your area to succeed, and oftentimes you kind of miss the big picture, and you miss like kind of what led up to your point or your moment in the customer experience and what kind of happens after. And the first thing that we did together as a team when I joined was like we created this large blueprint thinking about this is just a concept, it's not real. We just thought about, okay, let's say like we have this kind of customer experience that we want to do. How would it actually play out as a story from the customer's point of view? And let's work from the customer's point of view to think about what do we need to do to make it happen, rather than thinking about this is my task list of things we need to do, how do we do it? But really taking a step back and getting the bigger picture. This is the experience we want to promise to our customers, and this is how we break it down in a journey level, and in a then you get more granular to the tactical and the feature level. All right. So storytelling also makes things concrete for individuals. So this is an example of like how our receiving team uses customer journeys to explain certain flows or actions that happen for a customer inside Oma Posti, for example, or one kind of point of service. Wants to kind of make a decision and like do something within the tracking experience. So when they're tracking a parcel or they want to like decide how they get the parcel, we usually use stories to kind of map out what the customer wants to do and wants to experience, and then think about what are the actions needed to support that story. Making this really concrete and visual also removes the guesswork later on, and then you can always go back to which part of the story or which part of the experience are we working on now. And it works as like a communications tool to like pinpoint and say like, okay, we're right now focusing on customs. What's going on in customs? So things like that. All right, so the next part is about engagement and memorability, and this is actually one of my favorite ways to use storytelling. So storytelling can also be used as a way to explain new concepts to someone and kind of start on a fresh. If they don't know much about a concept, you can also use storytelling to like make it relevant for them and also kind of lower the barrier to actually understanding like what's going on. So this is an example that we did for design thinking for e-learning. So what that means is that we were designing a course for anybody at Posti to learn about design thinking and service design. And one approach we used was actually narrating the whole design process through these two characters, Sasha and Jantunen. So rather than having like an academic, like this is the definition of design, this is service design, we actually let these two characters narrate and show the design process that we use and that we follow in a context of an actual service creation. So we actually had Sasha and Jantunen explore like how might we improve home delivery, and then showing them the steps that we take inside the process. So this was another way which was quite fun and engaging, and also like it kind of helps you in terms of memory to remember like, oh, what did Sasha do? What did Jantunen do? Okay, it was in the ideation phase, they were using Post-its or whatever. So it also helps people get on the same page. Okay, another thing that storytelling is super good at doing is simplifying complexity. Although the blueprint thing, I know it was super complex. Even I was like, oh my gosh, this is quite complex. But storytelling can also be very literal, but it could also be metaphoric. And I really like that you can use it in so many different ways. So this is an example where I use symbolism to kind of like explain how other people perceive things. So what I noticed was that you would be talking and having like meetings about, like, let's say you're trying to develop one area of your business and the services just don't really make sense. You're selling to so many different people that like there's no like consistency. And then when you try to talk about it, you often get lost in the details or like actual products. So one kind of thing that I tried to do was talking about our services as in a metaphorical way. Like, imagine we're a restaurant. What kind of offering do we have? What's our menu? Why do people come and eat at our restaurant and not someone else's? So, and I try to like talk about our services in the perspective of, if we were a restaurant or if we were a business, what is it that we're selling? Are we selling ingredients, or are we selling, for example, like instructions? Are we like a blog that tells our customers, this is how you can make a pizza. These are the ingredients that you need. And then we expect them to kind of do it themselves. Or are we selling ingredients, which means we're selling one-off solutions that the customers can use to cook their own meal. We sell the best tomatoes, and now they're going to use that tomato to make tomato sauce. Or we sell the best cheese, but that's it. We just sell the ingredients and they go off something. Or do we actually want to think about our services as value creation, and is the actual need our customers have is that they're hungry? And should we actually focus on selling pizzas or selling ready-made solutions or value-based solutions, rather than trying to say like only go half of the way, like only with a menu or only with ingredients? Should we actually sell pizzas? And this actually has been used a lot afterwards, because like this is about data. And it's super hard to talk about how to sell data because it's kind of invisible, but also like you have it. So we are thinking about like, should it be like a software solution? Should we actually build a product? Should it be a plugin, integration? It was like ingredients. So this was another way that we used storytelling to kind of remove ourselves from the core problem and think about it in a like higher level. Like who are we as a department or a business unit? So then the last one, creating empathy and a common understanding. So storytelling has been really powerful, again, as getting the big picture and refocusing on the customer experience. And most importantly, kind of having like of who our customers are and their lives. Because oftentimes in a large organization, or if you're super focused on what you're doing, you kind of think that your customers' lives revolve around your product or your service. But actually, the reality is you want to get them to use your product, but you need to think about how your services fit into their ecosystem. One thing that I'm really advocating is like, when we think about our services, how do we support our customers' lives? We can't just push them through a funnel only using our services. We have to like admit to ourselves that we're not the only ones in their lives, and how else and where else should we be in terms of their ecosystem. And why storytelling is super powerful here is that, like, again, storytelling makes the intangible tangible. It brings context to things that are hard to imagine and that many people have ideas about. So creating this empathy and common understanding is something that you can do when you can tell the life story of Mark and say that this is what Mark experiences. These are the kind of services he's using. How do we support Mark when he wants to go shopping or wants to message his loved ones? And then when we think about business customers, like, oh, where are they? How do we help them grow their business? How do we enable Finnish e-commerce to grow? And actually, where is it in their life that we could be present? So many times I have used like stories to kind of illustrate like the use cases or scenarios where we're not existing, to kind of say like, well, we could be here and this is what it could look like. Okay, so to wrap up, what storytelling has been really beneficial for me and in service design is that it takes away from the detailed features and products and really focuses on holistic, customer-centered, centered experiences. From complex ideas to a memorable narrative. And it goes from what we want to do and the tasks that we need to do to the needs and opportunities and customer journeys that we want to provide. The last part is on how to use stories to share your ideas. So I tried to adapt this presentation. As I said, I'm coming from like a service design background, which is very much more like services are very intangible. So it's we use storytelling a lot to like make them tangible and make them understood. So I try to use that same approach in the user experience and also like in product development. So here are some tips and tricks to apply this to UX. So the first thing is like the elements in a story. So before we even like think about what's the story, these are some kind of core ingredients that are needed when you're kind of telling your story. So think about who is the actor or actors present. So I guess in UX it would be like as a role. So think about like who is the kind of role or who are the people involved in the story. Secondly, like what's the context? Where is this taking place? And why is it there? Then the scenario. So what's going on? Like what's the main event? And what's the scene that you're playing out or the use case? And then very importantly in storytelling is the narrative sequence. So kind of what happens before and after the scene takes place, and what are the gaps in between? And of course, in UX design, you do a lot of storyboards and do a lot of user stories. So it's kind of the same way of thinking in that aspect. So inside your story, you can think about, first of all, like what is it about? Like why am I telling this story? And then you can start making sure or checking off like, am I illustrating or like telling these points in my story as well? So these are the things that you kind of need to unravel, explain, promote, or share in your story. So is it the touch point of the channel that you want to talk about? Is it the, do you have that clearly defined in your story? What are the actions that can take place and that your actor or customer wants to do? What actually is the value of the feature that you're showing here? What is like the thing that it promises? And then also, what are the needs of the user doing this? So these are all the things or some things you can consider when you're building your narrative around your main event. Do I have all these things? Is it enough to support the scene to explain my idea to the audience? Okay, then we have storyboarding. So basically, you take that kind of main idea and then you can apply it to the context of a storyboard. So now this is your flow. So think about how your customer or user got to that entry point. What do they understand about that situation? How did you build up or get them to convert to do something? So what is the action that is being performed? And then like kind of what is the gist or the impact in this story or in this scenario that you're trying to describe? So like, how does the user know that they were able to accomplish their task? And then is there some kind of continuation or conclusion to the narrative or the story that you're trying to tell? So at least when I'm making stories, I try to think about like kind of what is the sequence that's going on. And like the one thing I find that is quite important in any kind of like UX flow is like, at least for me, one thing I see often that's missing is the awareness. Like, how do they start? So I think it's really important that when you think about storyboarding or customer journeys, you really think about like all these things so that your solution or your flow doesn't live in isolation to the rest of the things that are happening. So when you have a storyboard, what we usually do next is turn those into wireframes. So even though I'm focusing a lot on storytelling and concept design, I also do many prototypes because that is one way to visualize the story and contextualize it in a way that's easy to share, if you remember the first part of the presentation. So there's so many different communication devices. So there's illustrations, presentations, as I mentioned, and prototypes. A story, you can kind of like imagine what's happening on a high level for the customer. They're shopping, they want headphones, I don't know. But then when you turn that into wireframes, you really think about, okay, they have this goal, they want to do some shopping. That I'm showing here is actually one about smart locks. Again, it totally don't think that we're having smart locks, it's just a concept. We were thinking like, okay, well, why would someone use this and how would they use that? And then we kind of build the story around, okay, like, let's say Mark wants to like buy something and now he wants to track it, but he also has this like key at home. How do we like fit in this new concept to what we're currently doing? And how do we like explain it in like a new way, like something that we're already doing, but now with this new idea in place, and kind of like, where does it fit into Mark's life? So when we wrote the story, that's kind of like how we did it from both sides of the stages. So like customer experience stage and also what we need to do to enable that story to happen. Actually share your story. So one thing I could like advise that you should try is that you can actually kind of share your flow like a story. You start by introducing your customer, like, oh, or the user, like, Mark is just wanting to get the latest new headphones, and he uses Posti because that's the most easiest solution for him. He knows that he can have full control over his delivery time, use the preference or use the kind of locking system that he wants to have communication with the driver. He would have all the solutions in one place. His phone would turn into a key that he can use at any point. So you kind of set the scene, set the context, introduce the customer and what they want to do. And then you can kind of explain their experience like, oh, like I'm Mark and I'm checking my phone and I can see that my items have been dropped off, and like I can get like transparency and peace of mind that the delivery person has dropped off my expensive headphones and left without any contact. So when you're kind of explaining the flow, you can kind of go beyond just like user does this or this is what happens next, but like kind of make it fun and engaging by saying that this is the experience that we want to have, and then focusing really on the impact. That's actually my last point. So I'm really open to hearing your comments or questions, and I hope that this was something that you can take forward and try out for yourself, and hope you learned something about storytelling.
Thank you, Karoline. That was, well, super inspiring as usual. And yeah, I'm still like the pizza thing is just genius. I can't get over it still. It's been 4 months, I know it, and I still can't get over it.
Thanks.
We have some questions. We have not too much time since we need to go through Alex's part as well, but get some questions. I think that there was a hand up. Sabina has a hand up for a while. So Sabina, did you have a question or a comment?
Or she just clicked the button as a random.
Yeah, I just clicked it just for saying yes, nothing else.
Oh, we can't really hear you, Sabina.
Can you hear me now?
Karoline, can you hear?
It's quite quiet, but I can hear something. Now I hear nothing.
Now you're muted. Maybe, could you write your question maybe? Oh, okay, there was no question. Well, fair enough. It happens. Let's move on then. So Douglas was asking if you're going to be sharing your slides with us.
I'm not sure because there's like kind of internal stuff there, but maybe I can remove that. Yeah, or I might have to blur it because the thing about there's a lot of ideas floating around inside that we just do it like to see how it would be. Like that's kind of a lot of my role. Like we might not really do it, but we just play around with the idea and unwrap it. Like this is what it could be, and then you're like, okay, next thing. So not always. Sometimes it's like let's fold it nicely and save it for later. But
unbox and then return.
Yeah, exactly. Keeping.
All right. And Douglas was also asking what's up with his US mail, and he's still waiting for it.
There's delays. There's no flight. That's literally the answer, though.
All right. And Margarita is asking
the marketing answer.
What?
The marketing answer.
Yes, and Margarita was asking, do you work with other stakeholders to build and co-create the stories, or mostly within your team? How do these others outside the design world embrace the technique?
Definitely. I think that storytelling is a collaborative effort. So actually, like, what we always start with is an idea. So usually a stakeholder or someone in leadership has an idea and they don't know how to communicate it, where the story begins. One of the first stories, like really long stories that we've written, have been like, because you just hear features here and there, like idea here, idea there, idea here, and then you're like, how does this all fit together? And then then we sat down and we actually wrote down all the ideas and tried to make some sequence. And that's how the story got created. Like, which idea happens first? Do they first shop, or do they first like get inspired? And then we kind of move things around, move the ideas around, and build the narrative around, like, what do we mean by this when we say that? And that has taken like a lot, like sometimes it's taking like 2 weeks just to write one story. And sometimes it could be like one concept and then you just like flush it out right away, like packaging. Okay, tell me the story of like how the life of a package. And then we kind of go from there.
Alice, you're muted.
Of course, the usual. Ni says that she found your master thesis and she hasn't read much yet, but the visual, she is very impressed.
Okay. At least that you will have to share with everyone.
No pressure.
Oh my gosh, it was like more than 5 years ago.
I think that if there are more questions, feel free to keep popping them in the chat, and maybe Karoline can keep answering in the chat if that's okay. And we will move on to Alexis then. So Alex, if you want to take the stage.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. When my colleague asked me if I want to present at UXHel, my first reaction was, what the hell are you talking about? And then I realized that HEL stands for Helsinki. And that got me excited, of course. And actually more excited being here. Thank you for the invitation. It's nice to see everyone, and thank you for your time and patience. I will try to be as brief as possible and as to the point as possible. If for any reason you cannot hear me, please let me know. Founder and CEO of Proto.io Inc., the company that builds productivity software for product design teams. As a company, we have two software, Proto.io, which has been around for some time, and Overflow, our latest software that has to do with user flow diagramming and storytelling, which is what I'm going to show you later on. At a personal level, I am not a designer. I come from an engineering background, but I love design, and that's why I'm building products for designers and product design teams for the last 20 years. I come from Cyprus and I live in Cyprus, and I guess that's one of the reasons that I love the water, I love the sea, and I'm passionate about it. Anything about the water makes me happy. So my hobbies are related to surfing and anything around that. So today we will talk about what is a great design critic and how you can get it. And then I'm going to talk about Overflow, the user flow diagramming product, and how Overflow can help you narrate your design story. So, great design critic and how to get it. This is a great illustration by Pablo Stanley. I don't know if you have seen this before, but this is how many designers, whether visual designers, UX designers, feel when they have to prepare for a design review. They feel that they have to go to a psychologist, or they have to deal with rejection, they have to persuade people, and it's a struggle. And usually as designers, we feel like that we have the apple on our head and somebody's going to shoot an arrow at us. And most of the people opposite us, they are not Robin Hood. So we're scared. some other things that we come across when we are giving a design review or a design critic meeting is that we see people coming back with questions or criticism about things that we didn't intend to cover in the meeting, or we didn't want to talk about it. And things like, can you make the logo bigger? Or like, I think the button should be rounded. Everybody has an opinion, which is fine. But we want to avoid distraction. We want to avoid getting off topic. So unwanted questions or unwanted toxic situations, we see that during the meetings, most of the meetings take longer than expected, which is something we don't want. Discussion often drifts off, and at the end of the day, which is what we need to do, we don't have an actionable feedback, so we can go back to the drawing board, iterate, and come back with new designs. So let's see what a design critic is in a nutshell and how we can achieve a great result. So a design critic is a meeting that basically we're called to evaluate designs and provide actionable feedback on whether or not it meets business objectives and user needs. A design critic meeting shouldn't be more than 7 to 8 people. Usually in the meeting there are other team members like engineers, marketeers, product owners, and so on, but also stakeholders in many cases. Each design critic meeting should have a presenter, which is usually the designer, and at least one moderator, and it shouldn't be you, the same person, to moderate the conversation and the schedule. The meetings shouldn't take more than 60 minutes. And one crucial fact about the meetings is that you need to declare at the very beginning of the meeting where you are at in your project life cycle. Project cycle, so you're talking about wireframes and ideas and concepts, or you're towards the end where you show visual designs and so on. Some of the steps to get you prepared is that you start with preparation. The first thing that you do when you set up a design critic meeting is that we invite people. And sending a calendar invitation with a location or a Zoom call is not enough. You need to do a lot more than that. To define the meeting goal, you need to specify the agenda so that people know what it will follow in the meeting. Tell people why attend. So if it's engineers, if it's stakeholders, tell them why you need their feedback, and provide any additional material that you may have, like prototypes or designs, anything that you may have, so that people are prepared. They come prepared to your meeting. Another thing that is important is that during the meeting, you need to set the stage. A usual mistake that we all do is that we're enthusiastic about our designs, and we rush to start. Let's begin from the home page, and we show a home page or the first design to see the reaction of the people. And then all the bad, negative, or positive, or unrelated feedback comes in, feedback that we don't necessarily need at that stage. The right way to do this is to prepare the people and tell them that this is what we're going to cover and start from there. As I've said before, it's very crucial to tell people what they're looking at. Are they looking at final designs, high fidelity designs, low fidelity visuals, wireframes? They need to know so that they can avoid giving feedback on visuals or the typography or the layout, the design, and pretty much everything else that you don't need to. And while presenting, you need to choose the right way and the right medium to present your designs. You can create a prototype if you want to show interaction design, if you want to show how people will navigate your app or your website. But in most cases, prototypes are not ideal. These prototypes is like looking your designs through a keyhole. And as Karoline said before, storytelling is about telling the big picture. One way to achieve this is by building a user flow diagram. A user flow diagram allows you to show the big picture and show everything from a bird's eye view. You can focus on different flows, different subflows or user journeys. You can focus on the details when necessary. But this allows you to have a good narration and narrate your story as you want without having to go through a screen-by-screen basis as you would do in a prototype. So the thing is that creating user flow diagrams is not easy. At least it hasn't been easy until Overflow, because you need, as designers, you need to export your PNGs and import them into a flow diagramming tool that was not designed for designers user flow diagramming. It was designed for something else. And then links your screen together with just visuals, or use a UI in your design tool to create a user flow diagram. And then you need to share that at a static format. It's hard to navigate and all that stuff. So I'm going to show you why Overflow is important for us, and why we believe that Overflow is an ideal tool to allow people to narrate their design story. And for us, Overflow is what we call the world's first user flow diagramming tool that is tailored for product design teams and for designers. So let me switch to a web browser. All right, and I'm gonna switch to the Overflow app. Overflow is a downloadable app. It's a desktop app available for Mac OS and for Windows. So you start from a blank canvas, and you can easily create different objects like rectangles and text components to add titles and stuff. You can create multiple rectangles and apply multiple styles. You can type in content. You can connect your rectangles together. Pretty much what the basic flow diagramming tool would do. The power of Overflow, though, is what it does in relation to your design tools. Overflow connects with the most popular design tools like Adobe XD, Figma, Sketch, and even Photoshop, to allow designers to sync their designs seamlessly with one click and take it from there. So let me show you a typical flow of a designer that uses Overflow. So this is Sketch. Many of you, I'm sure, if not all of you, know it. And this is my design. This is the work I do as a designer. Most probably, I don't want to share this with my stakeholders or my team, right? Because I have stuff in there that I just created for me to help me do my work. So basically, I want to create a presentation out of this. So the way we do it is that when you install Overflow for the first time, Overflow installs all the necessary plugins for any tool that you have on your machine so that you can start syncing your designs. So you selected the designs that you want to sync, and you just click Sync to Overflow. When you click that, Overflow opens up, and you can just press to sync with a new document or an existing document. So when we sync our designs, you will notice that all of your designs have been imported exactly as they are in your design tool. But most importantly, you have all the layers imported. So you can start dragging connectors from one layer to another screen. Doing that, what you may need to do is organize your screens or create them, group them together, and so that you can actually send you back. There you go. So you can create subflows if you want for, let's say, the checkout process or the sign-in process, and so on. Some other stuff that you may want to do, especially when you have a mobile app, you may want to give context to your designs. Overflow is full of keyboard shortcuts, and this means that I can, for example, press Alt and arrow right and space out my screens so that I can, much easier than before. I can select all or some of my screens and apply a device skin so I can give context to my designs, something that used to take a lot of time in a design tool. And then once you do that, you can just start connecting your screens together and creating different user flows. So that you create, you can add labels, you can add pretty much anything. And after some time, you can actually, I can show you what you can build, for example, with this demo that I'm using here. You can build, let's say, user flow diagram or presentation, which will look like this. It will have a nice title. You will group your processes together, like the shopping cart, the checkout and payment. You can apply legends and stuff. Okay, so this is our user flow diagram. How do we share it? We can print it, of course. We can export it to PDF or to PNG, but that's not the ideal way of doing this. The ideal way and the power of Overflow, it lies behind sharing and previewing. So we can either play to present if we're on an on-site meeting, and you will notice that Overflow is the Overflow presentation is interactive, meaning that you can click and jump from one element to another based on where you position your connectors and your connecting elements. Or you can zoom out, zoom in, you can focus on specific areas. And in a combination with your mouse and keyboard shortcuts, you can use the arrow keys to navigate up or down, so you can easily focus on different screens. And as you go, you can easily narrate your design story. If you have to, you can switch to rapid prototype mode, the quick prototype, which comes out of the box. You can just press here, you can add a device scheme and show your designs as a prototype. Anything that you connected with a connector is interactive, meaning that you can click on it and you can navigate to another. And of course, you can use the arrow keys to go back and forth. And you shouldn't stop there, because let's say if you cannot do the meeting on site, you can actually share it, and you should share it before. So you can create a share link from this presentation. You can actually upload it on the cloud. You can enable comments. You can protect with a passphrase. Sharing takes a few seconds, and once you share your script, your link, your document, you get the share link that you can click and send it to anyone.